Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake. It's time! Woo! It's tier list season. It's the season of the sticks. Jolly Olive is with us. We're starting off with a bang with the shortstop position as we will go through all 30 players or teams. There might be 31 or 32. If you were here for tier list season last year, welcome back and welcome home. Becoming a Wake and Jake staple, thanks to the rhythmic stylings of Jolly Olive. Jolly, how are you?
I am good, Jake. I'm excited.
Yeah.
We chatted yesterday, and I said, hey, when do you want to start? And you said, tomorrow? And I said, okay, and here we are. And we're starting off with a doozy. I'm kind of glad we're starting off with the shortstop tier list because it's hard, and I think it's a great way to kick off the season.
I hate that you're becoming a confident adult before my eyes.
Okay.
Don't make wiener jokes on this show without me starting.
That's how you make your bread. What do you mean?
When we originally dreamed this up last year, we said, let's save shortstops for last because we were like, hey, shortstop position. That's, there's something to that in baseball. Like, in a way, your best player still kind of ends up there. Like, how many of these guys could you point out and say they're the best player on their team? Like, arguably
10?
Yeah. Like, it's a wild thing, and it's also a joke as people go over their prospect lists. You got a lot of shortstop prospects, and then, left field's open. See you over there, kiddo. And the shortstop position is stacked, especially because there's a couple fresh names at the top of the list that you guys probably know off the top of your head if you're listening to Awake and Jake shortstop tier list, but maybe you're not.
And
maybe
subscribe,
you're just,
by the way.
Maybe you're just,
if you are.
Please subscribe. And we, through the next upcoming couple weeks leading up to the baseball season. That's awesome. Just, it's kind of not true. That was a fib.
2 months.
Well, like, everyone has the day where pitchers and catchers report, and we're like, yeah, we're back. And then no one cares about spring training.
It's a little bit not it.
I'm up for that Tokyo game. As we get into these shortstops, I want to do a little bit of, you have to know where you're from to know where you're going.
I like that.
Last year, I'm going to cut myself off. Tier list cracked me up still. It's like the closest thing that makes me like an actual YouTuber. Otherwise, I'm just an old Italian man who talks sports. I have a couple old things. We'll save that for the end. But the tier lists are really fun. I think it's just a fun way. If you have no idea, it's a fun way to lump and rank together the shortstops while also keeping a positive beat, not really trying to bury anyone or be mean. Baseball is a really hard sport, and except kind of like Javi Baez, we'll talk about that in a little bit, probably soon as we get to the categories. And the other thing that I think drives some of the kids nuts is that this is supposed to be like S tier. We don't play that game here. We make our own tiers. Last year at the shortstop position, and BBD's got it up on the screen for the YouTube, the top tier was $300 million well spent. Mookie, Seager, Lindor, Trey Turner. The second column, bookmark this. And I don't know if you're someone that wants to know where baseball's going. Our second row was future MVP winners. It was Bobby and Gunnar. Interesting. The third column, going to want to circle this one, was Wood and Leather with Bo Bichette and Dansby Swanson.
That was the third tier?
Baseball happens fast.
That's the top 8. Wow.
Where's Gold? Which there was a glimmer in BBD's eye looking at this one because it was Ha-Sung Kim, Carlos Correa, J.P. Crawford, and Willie Adames. And I think this was lumped together on gold gloves if you wear gold chains well. And I think Ha-Sung Kim, the Padres gold, was his meet me in the middle. Even though he should probably have a gold glove.
I think he might have one.
Also an interesting guy on this list just because, in the upcoming one. Below that, and this is interesting, cruising, it was Ellie, De La Cruz, and O'Neal Cruz. One not on the list anymore.
Center fielder O'Neal Cruz.
You'll have to tune into that. And Ellie should be climbing pretty good. Hope was C.J. Abrams, Volpe, Zeke Tovar, Jeremy Pena, Zach Neto, Perdomo, and I think that's Jose Caballero on the end. Wow, he was in the hope column. Don't look at this line, please, was below that. Trevor Story, Orlando Arcia, and Tim Anderson. Unknown rookies, Mason Wynn, and we had Gabriel Arias, we believe, from Cleveland, who turned into Brian Rocchio, but is Gabriel Arias.
Also would have landed in the same category.
Would have been
I
in the
guess.
same box. That's kind of Cleveland Guardians baseball.
Just a little tease. I think Mason Wynn might be our highest climber this
Okay.
episode. It's near the
I
bottom
think by
there.
tiers.
Yeah.
And that bottom tier, Kenny Pickett. Shout out to the former Steelers quarterback. Eagle going for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, might have a ring.
Super Bowl quarterback Kenny Pickett. Also, I decided I'm really proud of this morning because it's can he pick it? Can he play defense at shortstop?
Oh, a year later, I just got that.
Yeah.
I thought we were just picking guys that look
And
like Kenny Pickett.
I think you could be dumb and be like, that's kind of a lazy thing. I think that's fantastic.
I disagree.
That's the guy's real name,
I
Kenny
think it's
Pickett.
a real thinker.
And it was Javi Baez, Brandon Crawford, Nick Ahmed, and Nick Allen
I miss you, Nick
from your
Ahmed.
Oakland,
The Knicks.
or formerly Oakland Athletics. And a lot of those guys are no longer on the list. Javi still is, kind of. Let's get into this year's. And
boy.
if you're along for the ride with us, you know we start off with our categories and we adapt as we go. If we need to add a category, if we need to remove a category. And I think we might have even gone too deep
Oh boy,
with our current categories.
we got a lot here.
Because we do have
We
a
have
lot.
9 tiers.
We probably should have started. We might have to count ourselves to 6 or 7 next time and go from there if we need to. The top is Aaron Bleepin Judge. The second category is MVP-2. The third category is three-legged horse. Fourth, team's best player, and we think that's okay, question mark. Next column, Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay, question mark. Ha-Sung Kim, and that's not okay, question mark. Wife swap,
My favorite.
Kenny Pickett is back, and I don't think I'll ever remove it because I'm really proud of that.
And if you're upset about that, leave a comment.
The bottom row is Javi Baez. So,
Could be anybody.
let's throw Javi on there to start.
Oh,
And I just
that's how we're starting?
want to get it out of the way, Band-Aid,
man.
because go look at the stat page. This
got
is a
bad.
guy that's made a ton of money. This is a guy that in Chicago is still a hero. This is a guy that has an awesome baseball resume to a certain date. And it's just been horribly tough for Tiger fans to watch. And I wonder what's going on in Javi's head.
I have no idea.
But we're not actually starting there. I think we should do the top. I think that's not normally how it works, but with where Shortstop has landed, I think there's 2 top guns, Jal.
Yeah. We were trying to come up with a name for this, and I thought you nailed it. You're a YouTuber at your core. We all know it. Aaron Bleepin Judge is reserved for 2 men, and you could probably deduce who they are just by the name. It's Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr., because either one of these guys would have been a shoo-in for MVP last year had Aaron Judge not had the regular season that he did have.
It actually would have been a wild conversation if Aaron
Yeah,
Judge
I
didn't
think it would have been a
exist.
very
It would have been fun.
I think Soto finishes above Gunnar in voting, but I think if Judge isn't there, I think it's the 2 shortstops at the top, just because they played the most difficult position on the field, and their stats were so close.
So similar.
I said it to you before we started. I said that Gunnar won the first half. Remember, at the end of May, we were talking like Gunnar versus Judge, who's going to get it. Bobby won the year. He had a really nice end to his year.
He did.
And really made that contract look like an underpay, which, Gunnar,
Wow.
I wouldn't take that extension offer,
Wow.
man. I'd hit free agency if I were you. These 2 belong at the top. They are some of the younger shortstops here, and they're already the most talented from the looks of it. You can cite small sample size as a counter argument. I get that. But they are ranked above a lot of great shortstops here because they've already done things that certain elite shortstops on this list have not done in longer careers. And I think that makes it all the more impressive. They also play in the same league, and they probably will both end up with MVP hardware at some point. So never ask me which one I think is better right now because I don't know. They're kind of, you can pick either one and start your franchise with them, but they definitely both belong at the top.
Yeah, it's Gunnar and Bobby. I'm proud of us that last year's category was future MVPs, and they were a tier below guys that are now probably be a tier below them. But yeah, it's Bobby and Gunnar side by side. From last season, judging on last season, you cannot pick Gunnar. It's rail thin. The stolen bases, the defense, the WAR, the homers, Gunnar has them. Bobby had a just slightly better year, like a 5-game better season
like
out of
minimally
162. Better. That being said, if you're a Kansas City fan who is taking your laps on the internet saying Bobby's the best shortstop, sure. I tell you what, baseball is a sick sport that if this season Bobby hits a couple line drives that land in a player's glove and Gunnar, instead of turning on a foul ball, straightens one out, it could easily be Gunnar's better this year. But 9 WAR seasons don't happen.
They just don't.
And these two both did at ages what?
23. Same draft class,
same.
which I love. Bobby was second overall. Gunnar was the first pick of the second round. That's how far he fell.
Gunnar's younger.
Gunner's younger. How old is Gunnar?
He turns 24 in June. Bobby turns 25 in June. Look at that.
I'm doing a quick little stat head.
Look at that. Get yourself a stat head.
Give me some stalling time here.
Good reference to old commercials.
Yeah, they belong at the top. No question in my mind. Just for reference, shortstops in the last 30 years to have a 9 WAR season. Alex Rodriguez.
Good.
Gunnar Henderson. Bobby Witt Jr. End of list.
Kind of the end of the list. Although there's one person who I think could have an interesting discussion on this list, but unfortunately he could have an interesting discussion on any list.
Yeah, 5 different lists. Do you want to stay high? Do you want to just go next tier? Do you want to go somewhere in the middle?
I like to bop around. I do think the next real conversation starts with MVP 2, but I think there's something we can get out of the way quick. I want to jump to a very unique Wake and Jake category that is labeled wife swap.
That's where I thought you were going.
Just because I think I'd be intrigued if I was watching this to know what's going on down there. We have a situation with a couple ball players who I think could have very good contributing 2025s. I think they could take a step back and we could all be like, yo. They're a pair of Red Sox shortstop alums, and one's current. Trevor Story, Trevor Story's last full good season is
21
with the Colorado Rockies, right before he hit free agency. His 94 games with Boston, his first season, are solid.
4 WAR pace.
Yeah, 2.5 WAR, like kind of what they thought they were signing up with Trevor Story to a degree. In the past 2 years, 43 games, 26 games. A guy that had he didn't have injury concerns coming in.
No,
really.
none.
It was kind of the opposite.
He was viewed as kind of the safest shortstop.
I wanted him on the Yanks
and I was
badly.
with you. It was like him, Swanson, a couple other guys.
And hey, knock on wood, he's coming in with the Red Sox this year healthy, and I'm sure we're going to get some spring training isms around him a lot, and they are depending on him pretty significantly in this Red Sox team this year. Let me take that a step back. It would be massive for them if Trevor Story is a guy for them. If not, they do have audibles. Like, they've planned on Trevor Story not being part of the plan if they need it. Trevor Story and Xander Bogaerts.
Yeah.
And the wife swap just came from the thought of, I don't know, if these two off the record could be like, hey, Xander, you're staying in Boston. They're going to retire your number. You still get a pretty good payday. Your offensive numbers might still be there a little better. because that green monster tends to help some righty hitters. Trevor Story, I don't know. San Diego's nice. You don't have to deal with Boston people
Back in the NL West.
just screaming at you. You stayed in the NL West. San
Some
Diego's
games in Colorado.
beautiful.
Yep.
That I think, if these two could, I think they'd be open to a conversation. And that's how it starts. And those are the only two I had in that category for now. I'll be interested if we find
Another fit.
You think we'd need two other to join that category? Maybe you only need one.
Yeah. I might have thought of two.
So we will see. But those are the two that jump to mind that didn't deserve to be on the bottom of this tier list, because I could see Xander Bogaerts having a nice season. It's a little tougher to picture Story, I'll be honest. He can, though. It's Fenway Park. Tyler O'Neill just went nuts there. Like, Trevor Story could have a 900 OPS in baseball. It'd be a little surprising. It wouldn't be shocking.
Yeah, I think the thing with both of them, besides the Boston thing, they're both going to be 32 years old this year. They're both getting paid well above $20 million a year to play their position. It's just a very similar situation. And I think you nailed it before with, I think the Red Sox fell into pitfalls in prior years because they didn't plan for Story to be unavailable, because it's the front half of this 6-year contract.
This was supposed to be the good part.
You're supposed to get the good years in the front half. Now we're in the back half. So if you get anything from Trevor Story, it's considered a bonus. And for Bogaerts, he has been playing, and his first year was pretty good in San Diego. He was a 4-WAR player, but he took a real big step back last year. And the thing with him is that his contract is more expensive and it's way longer than Story. So that's why I think he falls in this tier. His is more financial. Story is more injury risk, that kind of thing. But they both kind of represent the same thing of our team could take our team could finish second instead of third, or first instead of second in our division if these players play to what we know they're capable of. But I think everyone kind of doesn't feel like that's a possibility unless they, see 2 good months out of these guys to start the season.
Yeah, the next step is unknown for a lot of these players. Thanks, Jake.
Wow.
But Xander Bogaerts, if we didn't see last year, it was a 117 OPS plus on a new team. It wasn't.
And everyone's first year of the contract is always kind of weird,
First years of contracts, especially when you change leagues, divisions.
Yeah.
Oh, he wasn't even listed last year because he wasn't.
He was
moving to second base.
Yeah.
Which can be a big
right.
part of why last year landed where it did with the
That's
shoulder
true.
injury
That's
he
true.
had.
Yeah.
I believe in Xander Bogaerts.
I guess
next year.
I have slight concerns that there's going to be people above Xander Bogaerts that if I'm being honest with myself, for the 2025 season, I'd rather have Xander Bogaerts. But I'm interested to see.
I'm in consideration of just moving the tier up one.
Okay.
Splitting the Hassan Kim tiers.
Let's see.
Yeah. We don't have to do it now, but that's...
Let's see. I might be interested in that. Okay, so that was...
Wife swap.
That was Xander Bogaerts and Trevor Story wife swap, which, God, sometimes you hear it again and you're like, I don't know. Players tune into stuff. Let's go back to the top, because this is where there is immense talent. There's household names for baseball. Jolly, I'll let you kick off MVP too, because I don't know. There's a couple things that I need massaging on.
Sure. We named it this tier because the guys we had in mind have had a runner-up MVP finish in the last 2 years, which is a pretty tight window, a pretty exclusive club. I'll start with not the guy that a lot of people might be thinking. I want to start with Corey Seager, because Seager was someone I went into this thinking, okay, I could probably put him third tier just because of the injury thing. We don't really got to worry about it because, if he plays a full season, he might be the best, but he hasn't done that in a while. And then I went back and checked, and I just looked at his numbers. 2023, he plays 120 games, which is 3/4 of a season, and he's a 7-WAR player, which is that 9-WAR pace that we were just talking about with Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr. Last year, he plays roughly the same amount of games. He's still a 5-WAR shortstop. He hit 30 home runs in both those seasons, OPS plus north of 145 in both those seasons. And by the way, he was the leader on a World Series team and had their biggest moments and all that stuff. So Corey Seager definitely still deserves to be at the top. And I think if he plays a full season, he has an argument to be in that top tier. And he kind of fits it too, because he's in the American League. Judge will probably prevent him from winning an MVP if he plays a full season. So he would fit there if he can stay healthy. I really think that's the only thing that holds Corey Seager back from being the absolute top tier. I think the Rangers are getting well worth their money for the contract that they signed for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep rolling.
I'll keep going. All right, now I'll talk about my guy. I'll talk about Francisco Lindor. Last year, I did feel a little funny putting him in the top tier last year because he was a great player in 2023. But a lot of that was after the Mets were out of it.
Right.
Second half, that's when he really charged down 30-30 and had his best season as a Met. And I think a lot of people were still like, let's see him do it when it matters. And he had that terrible start to the year last year. And then when the team needed him, he was the guy and played with that back injury and showed up in the playoffs. And I think he fits right next to Corey Seager. They signed similar contracts at around the same time. They've now helped their teams get deeper into the playoffs. Obviously, Seager won a World Series. It's a very different scenario. But they both kind of feel like the de facto leaders of their team. Like I think every Mets fan would say, who's the face of your franchise right now? They would say Francisco Lindor. Rangers fans would say Corey Seager. Injuries aside, performance aside, like those are the symbolic faces of those teams. And Lindor is coming off not only his best year as a Met, but by WAR, one of the best seasons of his career, only outdone by 2018 Cleveland. So at age 31, we might still be getting some of the better years of Lindor's career. Same logic can be applied to Seager, so I think they belong together.
Man, I think they sure do. If I'm reading this correctly, and this doesn't matter for the exercise, but if you're trying to play a different exercise at home, I think they both have 7 years left on their contracts.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Lindor gets paid a little more, which I think, I don't know.
Defense and health.
Contracts are contracts.
Yeah.
And I think team dependent, it's literally whatever you want, because I think Seager's upside is higher.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't
Seager's
argue that.
upside is higher. He can hit. He has an argument when he's healthy to be the best hitter, one of the best hitters in baseball. Like, especially if you do the pure hitter game, which is kind of just like, hey, let's not talk about Judge for a second, if I'm being honest. And I think there's some honesty to that.
Yeah.
Like, what Judge does is maybe the most impressive thing, but it's also, if there's a pitcher who's locked in, Judge can be gotten out.
Yeah.
He can be gotten out.
There's a
where
formula.
Soto, Seager, Freddie Freeman, they kind of have a different contact hitter gear they can turn on. That it's one of those fun bar conversations or podcast conversations that you could do anytime, any day if you really want. What about Luis Ariz? What about him, pa? Anyways, that I think it would be funny, even if you did contracts and stuff, which we're not, and you went around the league and you did, hey, Seager or Lindor. I think if you're one of the teams that's kind of locked into the playoffs, I think they'd say Seager.
Yeah.
Just because you're like, hey, I can have that in the playoffs. That's a no-brainer. If you're a team that is not and needs to grind it out, and you need the 152 games he played last year, which it was the back at the end of the year, 160 the year before, 161 the year before that, you'd say, give me Lindor. He's going to switch it. He's top of the lineup, play great defense every day. Like, it's a no-brainer that those two 1,000% should be lumped together.
Yeah, I think before the back, he had played every game.
Right.
And then his back gave out in the last 2 weeks of the season, and then he played through it at the end.
So who else is in there, Jal?
So Dodgers fans are going to get mad at this. When we were doing the tier list, I saw one guy's PNG, his picture, and I got mad because I'm like, why is he here?
Right.
There's like 12 different tier lists he can be on. He can be in second base. He can be in right field. He can be in center field. And the fact that he's also here and also good drives me nuts. And our last member of MVP2 is Mookie Betts. He was the runner-up in MVP voting in 2023, just like Corey Seager. The dude's been bouncing around. Last year, his numbers landed in a pretty good place. If you look at the first half, he was like the clear-cut frontrunner to win MVP before he got hurt. And I just think he belongs. Like when you think of the athleticism, when you think of the pure hitting talent of this tier, when you think of the leadership of this tier, kind of like we talked about before, the symbolism of the teams and how successful all three of these teams have been in the last 2 years, you attribute that success to their shortstops. And Betts, I think, fully belongs. He's also another big contract guy, $300 million, whatever the number is with him. And I think all three of these guys, maybe Betts and Seager a little bit more, are capable of scratching into that top tier if they play to their utmost potential.
Wake and Jake listeners, I think, heard me get in a weird spot with Mookie because I was like, this breaks everything in baseball. A 31-year-old playing shortstop for the first time. And then he kind of broke me back.
Yeah.
Scottish guy talking about me and Mookie
Mountain.
Mookie Betts hooking up. He broke me back. He played 65 games at short. The advanced numbers, which don't work in small sample size and defense, actually didn't hate him. Kind of liked him. That I got broken, and I was like, well, if someone's going to do it, make it Mookie. And I kind of went the other way. I was like, wait, let's make Mookie the Inner Circle Hall of Famer. Like, util has become such a thing that if you're drawing up your dream MLB lineup, like your top 9 all time, maybe Mookie should just be in there in some way. Or maybe it's with a DH and a util, like that Mookie should be mentioned with all-timers, and maybe he's still heading that way. It was 61 starts at shortstop last year.
Yeah.
Again, of Dodger problems, I mean, whatever, I'm not even doing that right now. But what does he look like at shortstop for a full season? Will he be at shortstop for the full season? Again, is I think another
probably not
Dodger question. And
they have Tommy Edman on the team.
Right. And
everyone can play everywhere.
Get his picture right. No, don't. I guess the thing that, when I see Mookie Betts on any list, I assume he should be top of the tier list. But it's interesting with the young guys. And Mookie, who is a season removed from an 8.3 WAR season.
Jesus Christ.
In 2023. And when it was on pace for higher last year. I guess the only thing, the 2023 amongst recent seasons is a bit of an outlier. Mookie is more around a 140-ish OPS plus. That was a 165. And I just think, again, it goes back to those young breakout stars, top prospects that have broken out, that are entering their prime, that put up 9 WAR seasons, that I kind of wish I could make an argument for Mookie to move up. I don't know. Mookie could do an Aaron Bleep and Judge if he wanted to, but I really don't think you can.
There's one asterisk for all of these guys that prevents them from top tier. Mookie is the sample size at short is too small. We haven't seen a full season at short, so I feel like you can't be at the top of the shortstop list. I feel like that's fair. Seager, it's the health. He hasn't played more than 125 games since 2022, 2 years ago. And then Lindor, I just don't think he matches the same offensive prowess as the other two guys. And maybe he could, but I think his value comes more from playing every day, playing platinum glove defense, and he gets his WAR number up that way. So if any of those three overcome that hurdle, then yeah, you can definitely argue top tier. The thing is, just Gunnar and Bobby look like complete packages, and they're also younger, like way younger. So that's why I think they belong up there.
Anyone else in MVP 2?
For now, no.
Okay.
And that's kind of shocking.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. Like you said,
Yeah.
I think there's one other name on our mind that doesn't have an MVP 2, but maybe the gig could be like he's lined up for MVP 2 this year.
This spot is super weird, man.
We will see, but maybe the truth of it is, and I think we should move with slightly more pace for a couple of these guys, because I think people know the story a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The next column that you named, Jolly, and I don't give a lot of people that power, is three-legged horse. And why don't you give me the names you currently have in that category?
Yeah, three-legged horse is kind of like a little bit what we were just talking about. Like they're kind of one tool away from moving up, but I think these missing tools are a little bit more significant that hold them back. The guy that I was having trouble with, because I wanted to put him with those other three, and we'll talk about him first. It's Ellie De La Cruz. Sure. He is kind of the opposite of Seager in my mind, where I think of Seager, I'm like, well, his numbers aren't that good. And then I look, and he's amazing. Cruz, I was like, he is already amazing. And then I look, and I'm like, oh, okay. But he's also 22 years old. Right. Like, he has so much room for improvement. The thing with me is that He got caught stealing the most in baseball last year. His stolen base ratio is a little bit deceiving. The counting stats good. The ratio itself not as good. The biggest thing is the strikeouts. He struck out 218 times as a shortstop. I believe that's the most all-time by an everyday shortstop. He led MLB by a wide margin. We also have another shortstop that struck out a lot that we'll talk about later. And you know the potential with Elly De La Cruz. You feel like he's the Reds' best player. You know that there's more pop in that bat that remains to be discovered. He played the full season last year, which is big for me because that kind of lankier body type I feel like always kind of gives me injury concern, but he was out there every day playing shortstop. The thing with him is that the plate discipline has to improve. Like the on base was there, but I think that Elly can unlock something more and get even better if he's able to just cut down on strikeouts, stay within the zone, and become a more disciplined hitter, which he can definitely do because he's going to be 23 this year, you know?
Elly is interesting, man, because every stat got better last year. Everything obviously passes the eye test. The stolen bases, the home runs. If things tick up, we're talking about a 30-homer, 75-steal player.
It's Acuna at shortstop.
It's why he's probably going to be a popular MVP bet going into this season because the stats he can potentially rack up playing at that baseball stadium, which is a factor in it. I mean, those homers could jump to, if something else clicks for him, it could just be an unreal season. I guess the fear is, like you mentioned, the strikeouts.
I just checked. It is the most all-time for a shortstop.
It's a lot. And, hey, maybe it's a new era of baseball, and if that is how Elly De La Cruz gets out and that's it, that's fine. We adjust. Aaron Judge strikes out a lot. We adjust. That's okay. The batting average got better. The on-base got better. The slugging. But still, the OPS landed at 809.
Which is great.
Where Witt and Gunnar and Seager and Mookie have landed at different times is a high 9s.
Yeah. Like if Gunnar and Bobby didn't exist,
right,
we're way more excited for Elly because he's their age and he's already really good.
Right, like he might be
raised the bar.
He would probably just be in his own column below those older heads being like, please catch me, or future MVP.
Yep.
That's kind of what we did with
that would have been him probably by himself, honestly.
But yeah, I think if you're being fair about it, I don't think you can put Elly up. And I think the reason you said's three-legged horse, and I think Elly is kind of that now, that he needs to either cut down on the strikeouts or show that everything else can be so good that he can rise above.
Right. I think that's an important part, too. Like, yeah, he can still be this high strikeout guy. Like, we've seen plenty of players succeed in that vein. It's just unconventional for a shortstop. Like, you don't you think shortstop, you think contact bat. And Elly is a power-hitting, not afraid to whiff kind of shortstop. And he can still make that work and be an elite player. But it'd be, like, just imagine what he can accomplish if that's not a part of his game as much.
And the strikeout rate from 23 to 24, it did come down. It did trend the right direction.
That's good. I didn't know that.
2.5% off the strikeout rate.
It's still high, though. 31%.
It's still well over 30, but do the same cut and you're under 30. It gets not
walks
too
are going
excessive.
like.
So, yeah, second highest strikeout rate in baseball, only behind Zach Geloff.
Well,
tough.
Wait for him.
Yeah.
That I think this is all fair. Willy Adames. Did we say Willy Adames yet?
We haven't said Willy Adames.
Oops.
Spoilers.
Oops. Let the rest of the row in the three-legged horses. Carlos Correa, Willy Adames, and Trey Turner.
Yeah, that's what I got. Where do you want to start?
I want to do Correa tidy because if I talk too long, I'm probably going to land in a weird spot. Carlos Correa balled out when he was on the field last year.
Good.
He's still a defensive weapon, which you can't say that about a lot of players. Literally using him different on relay throws because he's a defensive weapon. He had a 905 OPS last year in 86 games, 3.7 WAR. There is an injury factor here. It's the reason he's not on your team or Willie's new team.
Right.
So that's already going to make me feel better. And, I mean, he played out of his dome. Like, he played 135 games the year before, and he had a 94 OPS plus. So I can't fully believe in what he did last year. I would guess that Carlos Correa would play to his baseball card and be the 826 OPS guy, but with his defensive prowess, that's an amazing baseball player. But I think three-legged horse is fair.
Yeah, he's a 6.5 WAR player when he plays 162 games, which is that Lindor, that's Seager territory. But it is the injury concern. 86 games
but Seager's a 9 WAR player.
That's
if he
what I'm
plays
saying.
162.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's levels, and with Correa, it's just he's going to be 30. There was the whole circus with the ankle thing. It's scary because it's half a season. You know, like your team can't win when they have that much money invested in a player that only plays half a season. So things can change with Correa, and you can also argue it the other way of like, this might be as good as it gets for a little bit. Like maybe this is going to go the other way. But I don't think that's fair to him. So I feel like he's an awkward fit just in general. I feel like he's an awkward fit, but I think he fits this the best.
If he can put another full one together, it'd be very interesting to see. Is that 7 WAR? Is that 8 WAR? He
37 mil this year.
did 7 in 2021. What are the Twins up to? Is he going to be like a rumored trade guy? Like it was kind of fake rumors.
That's hard money to move.
Hard money to move. What's his contract actually look like?
So his contract is structured in the most team-friendly way of any of these like big deals.
Maybe it's more of if he has a good year, his remaining contract would be 3 for 95 essentially.
Right
and
now
it's all vesting,
and then it's all team options.
Right now it's guaranteed 4 for 130.
So if he makes it through this year,
it gets a lot better. Yeah.
Interesting. And the Twins are in a weird TV contract hell. Let's see what that is. Willie Adames and Trey, I think I'll take really quick.
Go ahead.
Willie put up a massive contract year. I got scared off by the WAR for a second.
Counting numbers are really good.
32 homers, which go look at all the home runs hit last year. That puts Willie in an oddly high spot for a sport that we're like, oh, it's more homers or bust now. Willie Adames' 32 ranks higher than you probably think in your head amongst the league, never mind shortstop. 21 stolen bases, which I think that's a career high, and I don't think he's going to do that again, but when you're in a contract year, you show you can do things. And yet, it's going to be interesting. Leaving Milwaukee, going to San Francisco, I'm interested to see that transition. And maybe we're a little high on him, and maybe there's some recency bias as I'm looking at the company he's keeping. 4.3 WAR, 3 WAR, 3 WAR. When we talk about some of these young guns, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to circle back on Willie. But the counting stats were incredible last year, and sometimes I don't want WAR to scare me. And then Trey Turner's here, who ironically had a 3 WAR season in what felt like a down year. Man, 295, 338, 807 OPS. Offense was down around the league. That's a 124 OPS plus. This season's a little more Trey Turner than I expected the stats to look like.
Trey's interesting. We had Trey top tier last year, yeah?
Yeah.
That was $300 million well spent. Everyone from that tier stayed together except Trey, who moves down one. And it's kind of a combination of everyone else in this tier, is how I view it. Like, Trey's defense is ticking in a scary direction.
Right.
I don't think he's long to be the Phillies shortstop. They have a good answer in Bryson Stott, who is an elite second baseman. I think he could be a great shortstop. But it creates a predicament for Philly because Trey's going to be there, I think, 8 more years, maybe more. And you would have hoped that he was, so he's going to be there 3, 6, 9 more years at $27 million a year. You would have hoped he's the shortstop for at least the front half of the deal. I don't know that's going to happen. Like by this time next year, Trey might not even be in this tier list. He might be in a different position tier list. The bat is still very much there. He was pacing ahead of Lindor at the beginning of the season before he got hurt. He's still a 3 WAR player in 120 games. Like it's kind of that Seager argument a little bit. But yeah, you wonder what direction Trey goes in. Whereas I feel like with Willie, we kind of know who Willie is. Like, it was
Right.
what you mentioned. He's been very consistent WAR-wise. He had the counting stats last year. Curious to see where it lands with San Francisco. How much does playing at Oracle affect him? Does it affect him at all? All four of these guys had some sort of question mark around them. I think Trey has a little bit more question marks than maybe the rest of them. But I think they all fit together for that reason.
Willie Adames, 16th overall in baseball with 32 homers.
It's really good.
You know, like that's plus the 20 steals. There's only like guys that have that combo above him are Lindor, Gunnar, J-Ram, and Shohei.
Yeah.
So if you like to have fun with stats, you can do that. I will be interested to circle back a little bit. Trey.
One of these guys is moving up next year.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that. My
I
pick
like
is
that.
Cruz, but I think it could be any of them.
Yeah, I think you could probably say two of these guys. Like
Yeah.
I'm not. If I get a Correa, Trey Turner, good DraftKings line on both of them combined, I would take that.
Punching that, yeah.
Someone putting a 5-WAR season out of those two, I think I would take that. We're starting to hit the interesting part.
I think we try and tackle our Ha-Sung Kim tiers
Wow.
because there's a lot of bodies that go there.
Yeah.
And they're kind of meant to be done in conjunction.
I think
Should we
so.
move up wife swap? Did that happen to split up the Ha-Sung Kim categories?
Personally, I would split them.
Yeah, let's do
but-
that for now.
There might be one guy that
'Cause
I put in that's
Xander
not
Bogaerts.
okay, that gets a little offended.
And maybe these people end up in wife swap. Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay. I think there's an easy one. I think it's Ha-Sung Kim.
Yeah, nice.
Although his free agency has entered the weird area. I think people are scared about the shoulder, and he's probably asking for legitimate shortstop money. And when we're doing all this talk about WAR and what's your best season, Ha-Sung Kim, he can do a dance with a lot of guys. That
Real
if,
good.
If Ha-Sung Kim is your shortstop heading into the season, you're kind of not worried about your shortstop position. Which
I'd agree with that.
That's an interesting way to look at this. Give me the names of who else you'd put in that category.
Real quick, Ha-Sung Kim, already the fourth most valuable player from Korea in baseball history.
Look at that.
It's pretty crazy. Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay. These guys can play some good D. They can hit league average, and that's all you need from them.
They can be good. Like
can
you
be
look
good.
at your
They
shortstop.
can be a contributing
you look at your
player.
shortstop position, and you're like, our shortstop isn't the problem.
Yes. And a guy that I have pretty much the same as Ha-Sung Kim in terms of things that they do for their team is Jeremy Pena.
Yeah.
Jeremy Pena plays a terrific shortstop position. He has been league average for all 3 years of his career. He's already put together 13 WAR in 3 seasons, which is way more than I would have guessed. If you asked me before we shot today, I would have said maybe 8 or 7. He's exactly what that team needs to shore up their infield defense. And you know what? He's clutched in the playoffs, and that's pretty valuable too. So Jeremy Pena, I think, definitely belongs in that tier. I wouldn't put him any higher because
They're oddly lumped. Like your
Yeah.
plus defense and league average hitter.
Like,
here's
Can
the-
like
here's
you're
these
comfortable
two.
with them in the moment.
Like, I like to play the what would he get paid right now
Hey.
if he was a free agent game. Jeremy Pena is a really interesting one. Like, what would he get? I don't know. Maybe it would be big money, you know?
I mean,
Age
it's always interesting with the age part of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess where do you have Dansby? Because isn't that the convo?
So I have Dansby in that's not okay. And
Interesting.
I'm willing to be talked out of it. The reason, so Dansby did not have a bad year last year. He was a forward player. It was a good season. The reason I have it in that's not okay is because of the contract. The Cubs are paying him $28 million a year. And Dansby has shown that he can be an above league average bat. But he hasn't really done that in Chicago yet. He's a first half, second half player. And I just feel like it's kind of that conversation of the Cubs could take such a massive step if Dansby had his highest potential year, which he just hasn't yet. But then he's like a little low on this list.
Yeah, I'm throwing a little bit of a
feels
challenge
low.
flag. I mean, if Dansby had a weird year last year, and like Cubs fans would have much loved
Much loved.
if Dansby had his second half and his first half, because then their whole season outlook probably would have felt different.
Yeah.
But Dansby, his WAR the past 3 seasons, 4 WAR, 4.8, 5.5.
Yeah.
Now it is declining every year, and you could point at that. And he switched teams, and I think Atlanta Stadium is a little friendlier to hit than Wrigley, so maybe there's something there for
Anything with first half Wrigley guys is always like, it's cold, it's windy.
Right.
Like,
And I guess Dansby, who's been streaky in his career and he's out there he is these guys.
Yeah.
Like, I know it sounds probably a little crazy to people, and I defended Dansby last year, but he's going to be in contention for the Gold Glove at
Every year,
shortstop.
yeah.
You know what you're getting, and you're looking for a league average hitter. I think Cubs fans would probably like if he could just be league average all year, and that's the Dansby Swanson they're getting. But that's what they signed up for, and I don't know. I'm not going to contract shame. Like,
Yeah.
It's not like they're looking. Cubs people and everyone around baseball aren't expecting Dansby to have a 120 OPS. Like, his best case is probably a 110, 115 OPS plus, and if you get that, nice. That's kind of the best Dansby you're going to get. I think if you told Cubs fans, hey, he's going to have a 100 OPS plus on the nose, he's going to be out there every day, which you should expect, and he's going to play his level of defense, that's what you've signed up for. But
Yeah.
I think it's Ha-Sung Kim and Jeremy Pena. He just got paid.
That's my thing. It's like, I guess it's more so with the name of the tier, which I don't really want to change because I think it's accurate. It's just like I would never give Ha-Sung Kim that much money. I would never give Jeremy Pena that kind of contract. And the Cubs did because that's what they
you're
needed.
Racist.
Time out.
I know
Flag.
it's out there.
Flag.
Now it's out there.
I'm done talking.
And
Joey
and
Ortiz is also here.
Really?
Yeah, I have him there.
Okay. I'm going to have to circle back on that another time.
I think when we get to the and that's not okay crew, Dansby is well above.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
think
where
he's
it ends up.
solidly above.
Yes.
Wade Miley to the Reds.
Okay.
Okay.
We won't talk about
That
that.
was retiring.
I'm putting Dansby up there. I think he's Ha-Sung Kim.
I got
That's
outvoted.
okay.
That's fine.
You did.
Cubs
Um,
fans, let us know if you're okay with how Dansby's been as a Cub. Curious.
Okay. Who else is Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay?
I have Joey. Joey was an older rookie. He
I'll put
played
Joey
mostly
there for now.
third last year, but I think everyone kind of knows that he can handle shortstop. And he's a league average bat.
Yeah,
Plus defender.
he balled. He's young. It's going to be interesting. Like, we could very much look back at this and laugh. I think in either direction. Probably not too high. I guess what scares me is I don't know how high Joey Ortiz can go.
Yeah.
And having done
While
these
staying
lists,
here.
Joey Ortiz could end up.
But are the Brewers not okay with him being Ha-Sung Kim? Because I think they're perfectly
I think they
fine.
are.
think
I mean,
they're
if they
perfectly fine with
yes, if they get that out of Joey Ortiz, and do I think he could be very solid defensively and league average hitter? Yes, and I think there could be variables in either direction. That I'm fine with Joey Ortiz being there.
I get what you're saying, though. It is weird seeing him on the same tier as guys that have been doing it for a while. I totally get
That have like
Because
proven
there are people that go to play shortstop at the MLB level, and that ends quick. And we're talking about Joey Ortiz could play 2 months at shortstop, and the Brewers are like, okay, back to third, and that's fine.
I know this might be a nightmare.
Sure.
Do we want another tier that's like Ha-Sung Kim and they could be better or something? Like for the kind of unknowns that we can put below the more known guys? Because I also have like CJ Abrams lingering around here. I have Bo's got to fall somewhere in here. Like,
Bo's an absolutely wild one.
I have no idea what to do with.
I
Maybe Bo is wife swap?
Bo might be white swap.
Bo might be wife swap.
I think
where's he
he'd be
wanna
looking
go?
for a change.
I can't believe how
Would he-
bad it got last
Would
year.
he
for
love to
him.
play at Fenway? Would he love to play in San Diego?
What's Bo's numbers at those stadiums? Let's find out.
I think I'm going to put Bo at wife swap for now. Because, dude, the Bo, I can't believe we're at this part of where we're talking about Bo Bichette, but Bo Bichette, man, if you erased last season,
He's a great player.
he flies up this list. He's probably a three-legged horse.
Bo, 970 career OPS at Fenway, 308 career hitter at Petco. It's a lock. He's in wife swap.
He would love to get in there. I wonder if we could throw someone else to make everyone a little more comfortable.
Who's he swapping with, I guess?
JP? No one wants
I
to
think
go there.
JP Crawford is Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think so too. I also don't think anyone wants to swap with him.
JP Crawford.
You know what I mean? No one wants to go see. No one wants to swap with JP.
after that Mariners ballpark article.
I think if JP repeated last year, he'd fall to that's not okay. But
JP
that's
was
the path.
really good in 2023.
Yeah.
Like how quickly. I mean, he had a serious
Really
drop
good.
off, but he led the league in walks, 133 OPS plus as a shortstop. Got MVP votes.
Yeah, and in his 105 games, he racked up he had a tough year offensively in 105 games. He's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's a career 245, 338 on base.
Also,
and this
sneaky, one of the best contracts in baseball. He's getting $11 million.
Yeah.
That's like for what he can do. That's
Right.
really good.
Yes.
You know?
And his prime years. Okay, so let's put JP. JP's in Ha-Seong Kim, and that's okay. Hey, can we get ugly names off the board? Because I can't even look at this right now.
Yeah, thin it out.
Just rip off Kenny Pickett.
Who's this White Sox guy?
Kenny Pickett? I don't know. Let's find out.
Doesn't he have the same initials or something? I'm blanking on his name.
He's
Colton Cowser, but not.
Brendan Shoemake.
This is Brooks Baldwin.
Brooks Baldwin.
Close, kind
Okay.
of. You could have said any name.
The
and I
A's
would've-
guy
yeah.
is Jacob something.
Jacob Wilson, who I
He's like
believe
a-
is a well-regarded
Yeah,
prospect.
he's like a
he's a
top
He's a
prospect.
real
prospect.
one.
Great.
We're going to find out Kenny Pickett.
I put the A's logo up there, too. Is Brian Rocchio Kenny Pickett? Because he can pick it.
I have this here as more like a question. Like, yeah, Kenny.
I think it's Kenny Pickett.
No.
Because I don't know if
Yeah,
he
he
has,
can. He can pick it.
Oh, yeah.
90th percentile.
I just don't know if he has any offensive profile, and I don't think the guards care.
Yeah.
That I'm interested to see what that looks like.
Taylor Walls, I have here.
Put Walls
Trey
and Xavier
Sweeney, Taylor
Edwards in
Walls.
there.
Yeah, like I think if Trey Sweeney just plays solid shortstop, he's already more valuable than Javi. Right?
Yeah.
Which is so sad, but
Go look at Javi's offensive stats.
it's bad.
Okay. I want to jump up to team's best player, and we think that's okay, because I think there's a couple layups. I think Mason Wynn,
Yeah.
what he did last year, I think there's potential he could climb up this list. I think there's potential he could climb down this list. I know, you and Foolish got into that nasty fight on Wake and Jacob.
I was pro
Wynn.
Mason Wynn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up?
Eat it.
What's up?
Eat it, Foolish. But that could come back.
Yeah.
That could come back, and he could be a guy that could be next year's Ha-Seong Kim, and that's not okay because the Cardinals are going to ask a lot of him. I love Mason Wynn. The way he plays is awesome, and I think he could potentially climb up this list. You wonder how high, but Mason Wynn deserves to be a tier above a couple. Joey Ortiz, Jeremy Pena. I think from what
Proven
he showed,
just that little bit more.
from what he showed last year, if there's more in there, Mason Wynn. How do you spell that?
With a Y.
Both
Mason.
names are kind of not how you'd have guessed.
He was their most valuable player by a lot last year.
5-war season.
Yeah, like he was a and he was 22 years old.
Yeah.
Like
so he.
You're right that he could take a step in either direction. Like
Right.
we've seen plenty of sophomore slumps. It could go the other way. Like he could take a step forward and get even better. That I think that he fits kind of perfectly in this tier of like if he is great,
Right.
the Cardinals now have a, Willie Adames, potentially even higher caliber shortstop for so cheap because he's so young. Plus, he's got that absolute cannon of an arm, which I think is a tool that no other player has
Right.
in baseball, like him. That his upside is tremendous. Like I feel like the Cardinals can honestly try and start to build around him if they see
Right.
a step forward in 20. Like he can realistically be the face of that franchise.
If he takes a slight step up, he's a 6-war shortstop
Yeah,
at
and
age
they just-
23.
There's not like I know we're in kind of a shortstop golden age, which makes this tier list so difficult. But he is in the conversation of being in like that top 5 tier if he takes another step forward next year.
Another guy that I think goes here easily, and I wish we would talk more about him. Zach Neto, where his final stats landed last year, are insane.
Really good.
And I mean, there's obviously an Angels caveat here, but it's very similar to Mason Wynn. 5-WAR, 23 homers, 30 steals. Like it's an incredible season.
Yeah.
If Zach Neto did that offensive season on the New York Yankees,
Everyone would be talking about like most underrated player in baseball type conversations.
like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. And he did it with his Halos, who do they have a team? That again, it's very similar to the Mason Wynn conversation. Hey, 2 great guys. Here's your snaps. We probably spent too much time on the big boys.
I mean, it's just the thing that's messing me up is like they're all so young. Like, how are they all so good already? It doesn't make any sense in my brain.
Well,
like,
the sick part is, unfortunately, baseball happens to some guys, whether it's injury or you've got one hole in your swing or something happens. Does Zeke Tovar deserve to be with them?
So Zeke is interesting because Zeke struck out 200 times last year, which is he's one of only 3 shortstops ever to do that. The other one being Ellie De La Cruz last year. He also did it. Zeke had a little bit of a plate discipline thing. He's also in a similar scenario to Zach Neto, where he plays for a pretty poor team, so he's the best player far and away, especially with Nolan Jones and guys like that. Won the Gold Glove, and kind of
didn't know that.
Like definitely deserved the nomination. I wasn't sure if he was going to win, but he's really nice at shortstop. The thing with me is a 295 on base is not good. Like
Dangerous.
That's not major league level. If one part of your game falls off, things can get really bad really quickly. So maybe he is Ha-Seong Kim, and that's okay. But also, he's another guy that I kind of just believe in. Like he was 22 last year. Mason Wynn was 22 last year. Zach Neto was 23 last year. Like there's still a realistic path forward for all 3 of those guys.
He's trending up.
The step up he took from age 21 to 22, led the league in doubles.
Yeah.
Home road splits aren't that bad, which is wild. He was slightly better at home, but the Coors effect, and I can get rambly on that sometimes, but like it can hurt you more than it can help you.
Yeah.
The fact his splits are like this is pretty wild. He deserves. I think we're rocking him a little bit. I think he deserves to be up there.
Yeah, I think with a lot of Rockies players, sometimes you see the OPS plus, and you're like, well, but I feel like that's kind of unfair sometimes because
that is getting dragged down by just he played in Coors.
Right. Like I would more so like if I saw guys AAA stats and they're crazy, that would make me more like meh, rather than a guy who's in the major leagues doing it and just has the Coors effect latched onto him. I think he belongs here because I do think he's the best player on the Rockies.
We
right
don't
now.
really know about availability yet, but this guy's first 2 full seasons, 153, 157.
That matters to me.
26 homers, led the NL in doubles with 45, and he won the Gold Glove at age 22. So yes, he deserves to be team's best player, and that's another.
And there's also
situation.
He was technically less than Brenton Doyle, which I'm excited to see where Brenton Doyle falls in the center field list when we get there. But they were kind of the same guy. 4-WAR player, around league average bat, really good defensively.
And that's okay, question mark.
Why are the Rockies really good at developing players and they just can't get any external talent?
The pitching thing is crazy.
It's crazy.
A couple of their transactions are crazy. They're more focused on being a business than a baseball team.
Dude,
A couple
really
of their
good at
non-transactions are crazy.
Like their position players are good.
The other part that gets me mad is like I think there's going to be a Rockies article in 5 years or 25 years that's very similar to the Mariners one that came out. That the problem is the Rockies have known their stadium is an issue for 20 years,
There's
and
nothing
they've
they can
never
do.
tried anything.
Yeah. Like Arizona.
They tried one thing. There was one season when they weren't going to use starting pitchers. Like there was a weird Bud Black season. I forget what it was.
Was it one of their playoff years?
No. They tried
some weird
and it
pitching
just didn't
plan.
work. But I'm not doing the course.
Yeah, no, you're going to get lost.
It gets me hot. I'm ready for that advisor gig.
Those 3 feel like a tier.
I would make a pitch for C.J. Abrams. And I know there's a fear factor, and last season ended weird. If I wanted to, I could spin that in a positive way. We are maybe too familiar with C.J. Abrams. It feels like he's been a big leaguer for a while now. He's still 24. 20 homers last year, 31 steals, 18 homers, 47 steals the year before that. He had a 110 OPS plus last year. It obviously landed in a weird place. There are questions about his defense that could have him on a third base list.
Yeah.
Probably sooner
Second base.
than later or something like that.
My take for this is I think he ends the year not the shortstop of the Nationals. It got pretty bad defensively last year. I watched a lot of Nationals baseball.
Right.
That's fan. And the bat was really there in the first half, best player in the lineup for sure. When he came up in the order, you knew okay, this is the at bat we got to be careful around. They have a lot of talented young players. I think James Wood, if you want to do a fun NL MVP sprinkle this year for high odds, he's a guy I would pick. with Abrams, I just think he's so defensively limited that I can't imagine that by WAR he'd be the Nationals' best player this season. He was first percentile, outs above average, -17, like bottom of the league by far.
So where would you put him?
That's the thing, because he's not Ha-Sung Kim. Ha-Sung Kim, his whole thing is that he's going to give you 4 WAR and be good defensively. So CJ Abrams is a really weird one. I don't think he needs to change the scenery. I think he's fine being a National.
I don't think he's Bo's wife swap.
We'll see what happens.
So maybe he is in
can't
that
pick
tier, just kind of like as an asterisk, because I don't really think he fits in any of the other ones.
I think he's there, man. Like, what would be more surprising to you? Like, CJ Abrams ends up in a bad spot on any list. Or we're talking about CJ Abrams like the 5 WAR player this year. Like, if CJ Abrams ends up in a pit, I don't know, man. That guy has all the tools. Hopefully he got a life lesson at the end of last season. Like, what if CJ Abrams took a lot of stuff to heart and he comes in incredible this year? Like,
it depends on his response to adversity.
if I had to bet on CJ Abrams having a 1.5 WAR season or a 5 WAR season, I would bet 5 WAR.
I can be okay with it, because he matches the young factor too. Prized prospect, 23 years old last year, so that's the same as Neto. I'm okay with it, but I do think
I understand the fears.
it's honestly, I don't know why the Nationals haven't swapped him and Luis Garcia, because Luis Garcia is a really good glove at second base, and Abrams was originally a second baseman. If my memory serves me right,
I think history is going to look pretty good on your commentary.
we'll see.
But I want to see. I
The
think
bat is real. The bat's very real. He's a good hitter.
like C.J. Abrams could be 30.
Whatever it is, seems like it is okay.
Yeah.
Where exactly a team's going to use him, we'll figure it out. But
Like, really quick, hang on.
What's that?
What do you do in September? Because I remember these numbers were not. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so he had a 1.127 OPS in June. That month alone, he was like
That's good.
best hitter in baseball type thing. Then he was below 600 the next 2 months.
Right.
So he was just streaky. Like, his numbers could have ended in a way
two
better spot.
insane months.
So I
one
think,
good
I'm
month,
sold. I think he could be in
3
that tier.
bad.
Because
Yeah.
if he just stays consistent, his bat will carry him to the same values the other 3 guys.
Yeah, and I guess, again, baseball, we talked about how are there so many young guys on this list, and it's consistency, it's work ethic, it's health, it's all the stuff that of talent and like potential. I think of this crew, I still think CJ Abrams might have the most talent and potential.
Yeah.
Most like things he can do.
Gets a little
for you.
tricky with defense and like
I guess, what do you think is easier to improve? That's the question you ask
Right.
yourself with that.
I think of all these guys, as a hitter, I can bake on Abrams the most. Zach Neto might have an argument.
Yeah.
And in baseball, hitting talks, but it might talk at a different position.
It's true.
Oh boy.
So that leaves one tier here.
Ha-Sung Kim, and that's not okay.
You want to take it away?
Scratches his ear. Here are the names. Here are the names remaining. And there's probably a lot of Yankee fans that are listening to this that are like, hey, Jakester. And I'd say, don't call me that. You can call me Jakester. Where's Anthony Volpe? I heard a lot of young, talented shortstops get talked about.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear Anthony Volpe. Well, I think he's currently Ha-Sung Kim, and that's not okay. The expectation for him has been a lot higher. The Yankees have passed on a lot of these other players above him on the list in free agency or trades for his opportunity. There's a lot of ways you can chop up his numbers that are not very pretty offensively. Closer to the worst, if not the worst, than mediocre the past couple years. He showed a little bit in the postseason. That speaks to Yankee fans.
Couple good stretches in regular seasons that
You've seen the spark.
if you're a Yankee fan, I think most Yankee fans have seen the vision on him.
And it could happen, but he has not earned to be with the team's best player, and we think that's okay.
All those
Ha-Sung-
guys took a big step up offensively.
he could make a fight for Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay, but he's currently not. I mean, what's the career OPS plus at?
83. My thing with Volpe, because I do think on a lot of teams, if you add an Anthony Volpe, the team gets better. I think that you can say that safely. He's a 3-WAR shortstop. A lot of teams could benefit from that. The thing with that is that when you see, Volpe, he was only 23 last year. So was Zach Neto. So was Zeke Tovar. So was C.J. Abrams. So was, the guys at the very top of the list, although they're kind of an alien scenario. So was Ellie De La Cruz. Like, there are so many shortstops in the game that are that young that have already demonstrated that they can hit at an above league average at the major league level and also play the position well. Plus, you add the magnification of playing on the Yankees, the magnification of being a first-round pick, like you said, passing on other dudes to get this guy his spot. That, I think that this tier is kind of built for him of like, that's not okay. Like, we need you to be more than just a guy that can play the position. We need production.
Well, in the artistry, where sometimes things work out too well, you said Volpe has an 83 OPS plus in his career.
Yeah.
So does Isaiah Kiner Falefa. The man who kept the seat warm for him.
Yeah.
As Corey Seager hit free agency. IKF he balled out with Toronto last year. I'll give him credit. He got traded to Pittsburgh, and he did the opposite of that. And they're now handing him the keys to the shortstop position to start the year, which I hope things work out for IKF. There's been a lot of confusion in this office, and I think sometimes around baseball, how IKF is viewed. He's Ha-Sung Kim, and that's not okay. But he's not Ha-Sung Kim. That's the whole deal. That's the whole thing with this category.
Yeah. Like,
you're basically wearing a Ha-Sung Kim Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Like, I can be that, but you're not.
Like, the Pirates are so much better if they have Ha-Sung Kim. But they also have IKF slotted as their leadoff hitter right now. Their leadoff shortstop. I think they need him to be more than what he is for them to succeed. Also because they just didn't do anything this offseason besides Spencer Horwitz. So it's a little unfair to IKF because I feel like we all kind of know what kind of player he is. Like, if you play him at second or third and you have him at the bottom of the lineup, that's a really nice piece. He was good for the Blue Jays last year. But if you have him leading off and playing shortstop and you want him to be Ha-Sung Kim, you might be disappointed.
It's just so wild to me that his time with the Blue Jays is what the Yankees dreamt of. It's what the Pirates have dreamt of. It's what I think Texas briefly dreamt of for IKF. He did have 3.2 WAR in 83 games.
Damn.
But it fell off the cliff, and that's, if you look at his page, that's the clearest outlier of anything. That I don't know. You don't question his work ethic. The guy answered every interview question he was asked. He was well beloved by the Yankees players. I don't know. To look at his baseball card in modern day baseball and say that's going to be our everyday leadoff hitter, that's slight malpractice.
Yeah. From
the Pirates, who are drawing a lot of ire from their fan base and people outside of baseball. Not outside of baseball, outside of the Pirates. And those two being paired together just feels right.
Yeah.
Also in this category, I guess these are just my shortstops. Geraldo Perdomo for the Snakes this year. A pivot year for him. For whatever reason, he feels like a weakness on the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, he's an interesting one for me. Because he makes that team better. Outside of play, he's like a big vibes guy.
Jeez.
Like Dalton, I think, said he would be, if they had to pick a captain of the team, it would be him, which shocked me. But then I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I guess it would be him. But he kind of is Ha-Sung Kim, no?
He's moving up.
I think he's up. I think
didn't
he's
realize
Ha-Sung
he
Kim, and
kind of
that's
cleaned
okay.
up the platoon split.
I think that he's Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay. Because he's like their 8-hitter.
Is there someone he wants to wife swap with? Is he wife swapping Bo?
What is this?
I think he's Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay.
I think you're right.
Because his free agency could get real interesting real fast.
He's 25. He just turned 25. He had a 101 OPS plus in the games he played. He had 3.5 WAR last year in 98 games.
So you're telling me he's league average and he had a
There's
3.5
something that
year?
feels weird and off about it, and I don't know what it is, but I think you're right. He's Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay.
You know what's
He's-
off?
he's
It's
on-
the low power.
It's very low power, and if you go month by month with him from last year, I think there's one OPS in the 8s. Everything is a low 6. So that's one of like, what are you getting on an everyday basis?
Right. You'd rather him be consistent.
For an everyday basis, you're getting
Oh,
Kenny Pickett.
he was 3.5 WAR in 98 games.
Yeah,
I didn't see that before.
No,
I
he-
thought it was a full season.
he's Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay, even though
Yeah,
it
because
doesn't
he could
feel
be better.
right.
Oh shit!
It's a higher average, mid to high 6s OPS in those other months, and he went nuts in August.
And all three of his
All three of his homers were
yeah,
August.
in August. That's funny.
It's weird.
And 8 of his 20 doubles or whatever that number is.
I don't know why he gets judged on a slightly different scale, but he does not deserve to be with Volpe. He does not deserve to be with IKF.
I mean,
He cleaned up the platoon thing,
Are you
which was the
bleeding?
big issue the year before.
I had an old pimple that scabbed over, and I just picked it. And I
guys,
think
Jake's peeling.
there may be blood. Yeah, Perdomo. Yeah, the last 2 years he's at a 98 OPS plus, and the glove plays, and
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know why.
he was in the best lineup in baseball. He doesn't need to be better than what he
That-
was.
Yeah, it's just interesting that I guess he's viewed as the weak link.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, so big day for Perdomo. He's Ha-Sung Kim, and that's okay, at least for this season. And that's going to be an interesting thing we're going to find out this year because they've got Jordan Lawler coming up. They've got
yeah.
some interesting ways to look at their upcoming future infield. Yeah, if he can keep doing that. I mean, he was on a 5 WAR pace last year, higher.
Yeah.
So, and he's 25. Like, what if he gets better?
Yeah.
That's the other great baseball game that sometimes happens. The 2 remaining players, if you've made it to this point of the episode, my God.
Leave a like.
Lando Arcia?
Kenny Pickett.
I think so.
I might.
Oh.
I
you trying
I
to
was
back swap
leaning
him?
Ha-Sung Kim and not okay.
Where does numbers land last year?
I don't
The
think
numbers are really bad.
I don't think they need him to be anything more than a guy that can play short.
I think he plays shortstop still at a high level. That he's above Kenny Pickett and above these guys, but that also the Braves have felt like they've had 2 obvious holes the last 2 years, and
I think
that's
he's
needing an outfielder and
firm
probably
Kenny
needing a
Pickett for me.
shortstop.
He's
I
87th
think I'm Kenny
percentile.
Pickett, too.
That's above average. The Braves lineup bangs. He hits like 9th.
He's braved us a little bit, but that fell off really quickly, and then last year it fell off the whole time. That dude, if he has a bad first month and a half,
He might be out.
I don't know if he's the Brave shortstop anymore.
He's also it's getting paid $2 million a year. All they need him to do is just play short. If he hits, great.
I think he's Kenny Pickett. I think he gets a little too much Braves credit from that good first half of 2023. Last year
hasn't
was
been-
bad. He was 0.5 WAR.
Yeah, he hasn't been above 2 WAR since 2017. Since the birth of this company.
since the Brewers.
Yeah.
So
I think he's
78
fine
for your
there.
OPS plus.
I also have Xavier Edwards there.
I think you're right.
More as a question.
Yeah.
Because he can
Yeah, I
hit.
thought we did that a while ago.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just have like, he needs to get better defensively, but like he could.
If Xavier Edwards had a 128 WRC plus, 2.2 WAR. These are first time I'm looking at fan graphs. If he did this on your team,
I might have found it with him.
swap.
With him, the A's guy and the White Sox guy,
Don't
slapdicks.
No.
stop that.
Because
Stop
the
that.
Blake Snell thing.
Is an all-time clip.
Yeah, I got him in Kenny Pickett.
Fucking no.
I don't care.
He
Sorry, Marlins
put
fans.
together a nice little sample last
Yeah.
year.
70 games. That's just, you don't know who he is yet.
There's a
Hassan
cool
Kim, and
walk-off
that's
in
not
there, I
okay.
think.
Yeah, there is.
Um,
Is that it?
that's it.
75 minutes on the clock. Jeez.
It's crazy.
This is a beefy one, man.
This was
Shortstop's hard.
I don't think the other ones will be as long or difficult.
it's tricky because you don't want to get caught up on the big guys, but there's good conversations with the big guys
Yeah.
where, like, Aaron Judge, you probably don't have to have that conversation.
It was 2 of the top 5 best players in baseball. Like, you gotta have a lengthy discussion.
Huh. All right. Well, you've already commented what you've loved and you hate. I think Xavier Edwards is the only one I'm not satisfied with, and that's why we ended there. Because he has an argument for something.
70 games. I need more.
Let us know what we did poorly. We've got one of these coming like every week-ish. Is that the plan?
Generally, the non-Monday episode,
Right.
Basically every week.
So everyone thank Jolly, thank BBD,
Let us know which one should be the next one.
Oh.
and thank Uncle Dan.
Wicked Jake is a production of Dan Patrick Productions, John Boy Media, and Workhouse Media.